Terrific good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? Great. Once again, we take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for allowing this transmission to occur through this particular method and on this particular time. Once again, each and every time you allow our civilization to communicate with your civilization in this manner, it affords us an opportunity to experience through each and every one of you that many more perspectives of the infinite, and so we thank you for this gift of expansion and sharing. We would like to begin this transmission this day of your time with the following idea. We remind you that a new habit is in order, a very important new habit in your behavior. We have discussed this several times, but it will not hurt to remind you again, because it is so important for you to develop this new habit. So remind you again, we will. Until such time as you make this part of your day-to-day personality, until such time as this is second nature for you, we will always be willing to discuss this, to remind you to implement and incorporate this notion in your behavior, because it will assist you in making the changes that you wish to make in your lives on a day-to-day, pragmatic level. And so, we remind you that this new habit is simply the habit of not automatically nor immediately, no matter how the situation looks, assigning or ascribing a negative connotation to it. To give yourself a moment to look at what is going on and to learn to see it as a neutral circumstance before you see it as negative or positive or anything in particular. But particularly in those circumstances where you may have been taught to, more often than not, automatically assign a negative connotation, a bad feeling, colloquially, if you wish to put it that way, then even more importantly, can you take the time to incorporate and instill this new habit of neutrality within you so that you can get more out of the situation, learn how to change and transform the situation in a positive way, rather than simply automatically assuming it must be negative because of how it looks based on how you have been taught. Now, of course, we are not talking about ignoring your feelings, glossing them over, covering them up, pushing them down, suppressing them. By all means, if feelings come up, you should pay attention to them. But the idea is to understand why you have them. They are not automatic, and certain situations do not necessarily need to automatically generate those feelings in you. But if they are there, then you must pay attention to the fact as to why they are there. And generally, as we have said, they are there because you have been taught definitions about the situation that make those feelings seem to be the only logical reaction to have, when in fact they are not. Again, we remind you, all situations are neutral. And if you learn to balance yourself and look at them first and foremost in that way, then you can gain more information, more discernment, more enlightenment from the circumstance as it has unfolded, no matter what it may be, no matter what it may be. And in remaining neutral, at least for a few moments, you give yourself the opportunity to learn to assign new meanings to it that will be relevant for you, regardless of what anyone else's intention in the circumstance may have been, regardless of what you may have been taught in the past to think about such circumstances as you see them. Remaining relatively neutral at first will give you an opportunity to gain greater insight, more depth of understanding as to how the circumstances came together, what they are based on in terms of the definitions that are going on in you and in others in your society, and give you an opportunity to learn to replace those definitions in such a manner so that in doing so and in assigning new perspective and new meaning to the circumstance, you can then glean from it new impact, new effect, new meaning, new feeling, and learn how any situation can serve you in a positive and constructive and creative and expansive way, rather than continuing to live your lives assuming that certain situations must only and can only be capable of generating negativity in your reality. You are the one that is generating the reality you experience. And even though someone else may be involved, it is your perception and your definition of it that determines the effect you personally extract from it in your life. Learn the new habit of taking a moment to pause and not automatically assign a negative meaning to circumstances, but give yourself the opportunity to see it as simply a neutral set of props, a neutral set of equations, a neutral circumstance that has come together for a variety of reasons, and in looking at it as a nexus point, you can then begin to assign new meaning by exploring the definitions that are within you that have given it the meaning it already seemed to have. For remember that these meanings, these feelings, these reactions to circumstances do not come with the circumstance. No circumstance carries a built-in meaning. The meaning, the feelings, the reactions you have are already built within your consciousness based on the definitions of life you have been taught. Learn the new habit of letting them go and not automatically assuming that those definitions are definitions of an absolute reality. For there is no reality except the definition you give it, and that's what reality is. So learn the new habit. It will serve you day to day in practical and pragmatic ways. And we will remind you of this as many times as is necessary for it to become a part of your daily behavior and personality. And when it is, I guarantee 100% you will see a difference in your life. And you will see that you have more ability to determine exactly in what direction your lives ought to go and what it is you are capable of believing that is possible for you. And also simultaneously, in looking at circumstances neutrally, you will become more capable of understanding how it is you may be of assistance to others who may be caught up in their own definitions and unable to see a way to break out of the situation and circumstance and unable to understand that it is their own definitions that have made the circumstance seem so ironclad when in fact it is made of nothing but tissue paper definition. Learn that reality is only the product of your strongest beliefs, and that is the only thing that makes it seem so solid and so immutable in that sense. Transmute these things by changing your definitions, by changing your awareness. It does not necessarily mean that you have to see cosmic consequence in everything that happens to you. Though on one level, of course, there always is. But nevertheless, it will give you insight, like what you would call an X-ray vision into the nature and structure of synchronicity and circumstance, and will give you more ability to understand how circumstance hinges upon the strongest definitions you have been taught to believe are true. We thank you for allowing us to share this notion, this perspective with you this day. And in return for the gift that you are giving our civilization and allowing this communication to unfold, I ask now, in what way may I be of service to you?
Bashar.
You, good day.
Aloha.
And to you, good day. You are number 2.
First, I'm really excited, and I'd like to hear your ideas about the concepts of Merlin and Arthur at this time in our history.
All right. Why are you excited about these ideas?
Well, Merlin, because magic is one of my favorite places to be. And
Life is magic. That's all it is. Transmutation, as we have just said. There are individuals who have been on your planet, are on your planet, and will be on your planet, that understand that life and the experience you are having of physical reality is nothing but resonance, vibration, and that the rearrangement of these resonances and vibrations will cause physical reality to transmute, and this is what you have colloquially referred to as magic in your society. One such individual, historically as you might call it, was the individual you understand as Merlin, or in the ancient dialect, Myrden. And this individual of Myrden was capable of understanding with great insight the underlying structure and foundation of ratio, mathematical relationship, and resonance relationship that brought about the apparency of solid physical reality. And to some degree, not necessarily to the degree attributed to the individual in what you might call storytelling, but to some degree, and sometimes very profoundly, was capable of allowing reality to rearrange itself upon that internal skeleton structure, and to some degree also had the capability of allowing other individuals, when in his presence, to also experience some of that alteration and rearrangement. Such was the strength of the telepathic connection that he had with certain individuals, your Arthur being one of them. Do you follow this? Mm-hmm. In understanding that it is about relationship, and it is about the idea of connection, and about the idea of knowing that that which you have considered to be outside yourself is nothing but a reflection of yourself, then as the individual Merton understood, to change the self is to change the reflection. And to include others in that change is to change the reflection for them as well. This is the secret of Merton. Do you follow this?
Yes. Is that energy incarnate in any way? I once heard, I think it was you, say that Frank Lloyd Wright was an maybe it was Leia, was an incarnation of Taliesin.
In one sense, yes. But again, remember that with the idea of incarnation, you are looking at it in linear fashion. All things exist simultaneously. Sure. And thus what your thesis usually refers to as a reincarnation is simply a simultaneous incarnation of another aspect of the same overall consciousness that is also simultaneously responsible for other incarnations, such as Merton or Taliesin, as you may wish to refer to him.
Is that consciousness? Well, is there like a bigger oversoul that's part of?
Yes, I just told you that. The overall consciousness. You may call it an oversoul if you wish. Yes. Every individual incarnational being is a part of, if you wish to look at it hierarchically, of a larger oversoul consciousness, which in turn is a part of a larger dimensional consciousness, which in turn is a part of a larger multidimensional consciousness, which in turn, of course, and maybe leaving several levels out for convenience, is a part of what you call the infinite.
Okay, that's great. I like that idea of just, I know it's all now, so it's alive right now.
Yeah.
I love Sweet Magic. I decided that was the brand that I...
Sweet Magic?
Sweet Magic.
Oh, all right. By whatever name you wish to call it as, whatever name helps you understand it, it will work for you, according to your strongest beliefs and paths of least resistance within you.
Yeah.
Yes?
When I was in Hawaii, I had a really strange dream. And
define strange dream.
Well, besides the fact that it was like more lucid for me than usual.
Oh, all right. This is signs of awakening.
It seemed like there was a Bashar class going on.
There always is.
Something like that.
There always
it was that kind of a group.
Yes.
And they were offering a couple kinds of drinks.
Yes.
And I remember one of them was 7-Up, and the other one, I didn't like, so I didn't even remember it. But then when I finally said, okay, I'll have 7-Up, I was given a cotton ball with 7-Up and blood on it.
Yes.
And that was kind of weird for me.
Oh, all right.
Well, that's
it is symbolic, of course.
Yeah. Of?
The idea of what it is you are willing to absorb. The idea of your cotton being symbolic of absorption, and the idea of what you call your drink of 7-Up simply being representative of the 7 levels, the 7 energy domains, and the blood being your life blood. And what is it you are willing to commit? How far are you willing to absorb this information into you? Are you willing to take it, euphemistically, into your blood? Make it a part of your life. Absorb it fully so that it becomes your life blood. That is the symbolism of this image for you as you translated this experience into your third-dimensional mentality.
Okay, that's beautiful. Then the class was going on, and then there was a break, and then I was the first one after the break.
Guys.
And I had a dream before that was so strong that I remembered it, and I was going to ask Bashar, you, about that when I, at the class, and when he said you, and then all of a sudden it wasn't Bashar coming through, and I don't know that it was, I just know it was something that was so different from that Bashar energy that I was like, I couldn't say anything. I think I just kind of
you were faced with your own version of me, your own future self, your own greater part, your own greater self, called upon you to see how much of your greater self you were willing to be.
I was like Jell-O.
Right.
Well, that's nice. It's flexible.
All right. But it gave you an understanding at that moment, no judgment, of exactly how willing or not willing you were to be more of yourself. At least you had fun with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just looking at the different parts of it.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about Luna again.
Yeah.
She's looking really good.
All right.
But I think she still has a little bit of something.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if
it is not our place to comment on this at this time.
Very good. One last thing.
Yeah.
It's sort of off the wall. I don't even know what I want to
ask.
Off
which wall would that be?
It's a many-sided. Oh, I was going to have to give up the crystal shapes.
Oh, all right.
Well, it wasn't the last thing then. I invited my hybrid children to make some drawings for me.
Right. And?
I think I got one of the images. It was pretty wild, too.
Which would be?
It was some kind of a being that I haven't imagined before.
All
right. It wasn't anything I might have expected.
All right.
But I'm pretty sure it was that I did get an image.
You are correct, yes.
Well, I thank them.
All right. And, finally?
So the last thing was the crystal shapes that I showed to Daryl before the class.
Yes. Your pentagonal dodecahedron and your icosahedron.
I told him that I had heard you on a tape talking that the first one was good for, I think that's what shape you were talking about in the class, that it was good for tapping into Akashic records and things having to do with humanity.
Any shape that is representative of regular geometric resonances is good for tapping into what you typically call the Akashic records.
You did say that.
But each shape will have its own nuance based on the relationship it represents. Because of the number 5 being connected to the pentagons, it will be connected to issues of humanity. Yes.
And the second one, the icosahedron.
Yes.
What's that one good for?
Many things, but primarily it is representative of the idea of ideas, the crystallization of concepts, the formation of perspectives, angles, views. So, if you wish to open up more ease of understanding how to look at situations and circumstances from different points of view, the icosahedron is good for that, though it is also good for other things. But it is the geometric symbol of different points of view, learning to see in different ways from different angles. You understand?
Yes.
Does this help you then?
Yeah, I'm enjoying that Zen Tao teaching.
Yes. Your Zen, your Tao
teachings,
yes.
Yeah, and I wanted to thank you again for playing with us.
We thank you as well for playing with us and allowing us to play. Number 2, good day.
Good day, Bashar. I was wondering if you could maybe reflect to us if there's a particular meaning in the mainstream media now taking a full hour of prime time on a news program to discuss afterlife and...
The meaning should be clear. You do not need to ask. You are looking for my reinforcement of what you already know.
Absolutely true.
Do you not obviously see that more and more and more information over time will be spent on knowing that there is more beyond your physical reality, and the acknowledgement of such will be the recognition that you are all beginning to incorporate, or at least many of you are beginning to incorporate that awareness and that knowledge into yourselves, into your being. Seeing it in what you call your mass media, of course, will always be a reflection that the only things that wind up there are the things that most of you are already ready to recognize as true. Otherwise, they don't wind up there.
Okay. But on that particular show, they did portray that a relatively large percentage, not a majority, of people, when they had a near-death experience, experienced hell. Was
Yes.
this just a manifestation of their own fears?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I knew. I don't know why. I guess it was just another reinforcement I was looking
All
for.
right. Thank you. Does that help you?
Yeah.
All
And
right. Remember, consciousness creates reality domains. Therefore, in one sense, you can say there is such a thing as hell, but hell really is nothing but the concoction of the negative beliefs and fears within an individual. In one sense, therefore, it is real, and in one sense, therefore, it is created. And it is inseparable in that concept.
Okay. What's your location now in terms of distance? Are you still above Cairo?
I am. And will remain there, as I have said, for quite some time of your time.
Are you any closer now? Are we any?
Approximately at this particular moment. And remember, this fluctuates up and down for a variety of reasons. I am approximately shifting in your last week between 2,578 of your miles and 3,286 of your miles.
Any particular reason why you're shifting further away at times?
What is going on in your Middle East?
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
There is potential buildup of animosity. Therefore, the fluctuations are representative, in some sense like biorhythmic charts, as you would call them, of the degree of tensions being released or encapsulated in the area depending upon interrelationships of various countries on your planet and in combination with other things going on in your energy consciousness as well.
And is there anything new that you're doing to interact with that? Or
what we do to interact is always, first and foremost, a reflection of what the collective consciousness of your planet is willing to allow us to do. We cannot interfere directly. But we are always modulating and amplifying that which wishes to be modulated and amplified, or wishes to have some assistance, as long as that assistance is non-interfering.
Okay.
Certain aspects now of the circumstances that might lead to the idea of what you would call nuclear terrorist action in your Middle East, some of those issues are being dealt with now most directly in energy, and we are dealing with some of those ourselves directly with you, all of you.
In what sense?
In that we are helping to amplify and or modulate the energy streams of consciousness most directly connected to the possibility of that future reality. To see where and when such things might be possible to change or not.
Okay. And what is your perception, if you can share with us now, in terms of the probability of things ending peacefully?
Whereas, shall we say, about 1 to 3 of your months ago, there may have been an 87% probability of the nuclear terrorist action still occurring in your years of 98 and 99. There is now, at present, and again, this doesn't mean it can't fluctuate in different directions, but at present there is approximately a 78% chance.
Okay, because I had listened to one of your earlier tapes where you had said that in 1997 the probability would be that there would be peace in the Middle East.
We have at the same time said that the nuclear terrorist act was simultaneously an equal probability. It was at that point a 50-50 proposition.
Okay. And I was wondering, is there possibly one thing in my channeling that I've been having difficulty doing? It's not getting information, not communicating with my higher self, but with specific entities where I know I'm getting a direct communication, but I can't identify it and label it. And for me, it's very important for some reason to label it.
That's too bad. That is your lesson. As we have often said when individuals are attempting the idea of connecting to such entities or sources of information, one of the things now that is most important for all of you to do is let go of your need to freeze it or crystallize it with the concept of a label. This is more important now than ever. This is, therefore, obviously one of the strongest points of the lessons you need to learn in order to actually allow it to come through more easily, is to let go of your need for it to have to come through that way.
Okay, I guess that would probably answer my next question too.
All right, then you don't need to ask it.
Okay.
Thank you.
And is there any other information from that you had said that would be forthcoming in the future? Anything that you can share with us, possibly regarding the Sphinx and helicopters that aren't helicopters?
Is it the future already?
It is the future from the perspective of when it was said, yes.
Oh, really? Well,
from
it
your
isn't
perspective,
that particular future yet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You! Number 2. Do you know who you are? All right. Number 1, good day.
Hello, Bashar. Last time you told us that something was going to happen December 2000, that no one has guessed yet what it will be.
Yes. You don't think we're going to spill the beans now, do you?
Well, but perhaps you'll give us a little hint, or
That was a hint.
What if
the idea was not for you to come back to me and attempt, as you say, to scratch out more information, but to exercise your imagination and come back to us with ideas for what you think that might mean. Many individuals on your planet have talked for a long time about the transformation going on your planet, and many individuals have offered scenarios for the way they think it's going to, as you say, go down. We have now given you a big hint that it is going to be, in many ways, something that you have not yet, none of you, imagined in terms of all the things that it's really going to represent and the way things are actually going to occur and unfold. This was an invitation on our part sent out to you to see if you would accept the invitation and come back to us with ideas for the way you think might be the way things would go down that would represent something that none of you have yet thought of. It was not an invitation to come back and attempt to squirrel out of us more information for the way we think it's going to go down.
Well, actually, I was going to try out 2 ideas on
Then try them out.
But, well, one of them, it would seem to me no matter what goes down, probably part of it would be that we would all remember something that we had forgotten.
Very good. But don't make it a question, make it a statement.
Well, that we're going to remember something that we'd forgotten.
Very good. That will be one strong symptom, yes.
I'm assuming that part of what we'll remember is has to do with our origins.
In what sense do you mean that?
Well, I'm assuming that our origins have to do with their extraterrestrial aspects.
You are misusing the term origin. Remember, you, the you consider yourself to be as a personality, originate from where you are right now. All things are simultaneous, and the origin concept that many of you refer to is misleading, since you make connections to other places from the present. You do not actually originate from anywhere else but where you are, being that you are a whole being as you define yourself to be, a whole personality as you have created yourself to be, from right here and now. This personality originates from here and now, not anywhere else. But simultaneously, the consciousness that you are, the consciousness that is also simultaneously creating the personality you know yourself to be on Earth, simultaneously does coexist in many other places. If you're referring to that idea as originating from other places, then all well and good. But your use of the term originate in other places is misleading because it gives a linear connotation to something that is simultaneously multidimensional. Do you follow that logic?
Well, I do, and I meant it in terms of, in 2 ways. One, in that I'm assuming that we will become more aware of the fact that we have connections to, in linear terms, what would be thought of as our future selves.
Yes, in some senses this is so, but this will not be as strong a realization as you may think now.
Okay, and the other thing would be in terms of DNA manipulation.
Yes, what about
and
it?
I'm assuming that would also become a realization of how...
This will be a side effect and it will stretch beyond what you call, your year 2000, but that is not what we are referring to when we talk about the unexpectedness of how certain changes will occur, because that is one of the things you do expect.
Right. Okay. The other now, what species come from Sirius B? Because you mentioned that the 50-year cycle has a
There is not a species connected specifically or physically to the idea of the star you call Sirius B. There is consciousness connected to it, but not the term species. In that sense, that term is not relevant.
Well, then whoever came to the Dogon and gave them the information about Sirius A and B.
This is the indigenous population of the Sirius system in general.
Okay. And what type of aliens are they? I mean, what are they? Greys? Are they?
No.
What do they look like? What are they?
There are a variety of levels to those beings. Some have a physical level to them. Others have a non-physical level to them. It is a complex, multidimensional life form that can present itself in a variety of ways. When they present themselves in your physical matrix to your physical consciousness, they appear to be what you would refer to as amphibious beings. But that is not actually what they are. But that's how they translate into your dimension of experience.
Are they the ones that some people have reported as being dolphin-like aliens?
Yes, but this is not a literal description.
Right.
It is an interpretation of your mind imposing upon those beings the best understanding they can have as it relates to the physical life you are familiar with on your planet.
Okay. Are the dolphins on this planet going to play a role in the December 2000 event? Okay.
All life on your planet will play a role.
All right.
But in that they are, to some degree, counterparts of your souls, they will have, in some senses, a more obvious role than others might. Yes.
Okay. Speaking of souls, I was curious about, I believe you said that the Greys and hybrids have astral bodies. Is that not correct?
In that sense, anything physical would have an astral counterpart.
Okay, but which would be a separate concept from the idea of a soul. Is that correct?
In that your consciousness has made it a separate concept, yes.
Okay, because it's said that some reptilians do not have souls.
Impossible.
Oh.
However, it might be a different kind of framework of consciousness expressing itself in a different modality than you understand as a human in your relationship to the concept of soul. They have soul, but it may not be arranged in the manner you understand as a soul relationship.
Okay.
Do you follow this at all?
A little bit.
I will give you an analogy if you will not take it too literally. In their understanding, it is more like unto the concept you would call a group soul, with little differentiation or individualization in it. Okay. Therefore, all of them, in that sense, would consider that they have the same soul as any other reptilian of the same species. This is an analogy, not exactly literal as you would understand it, but as best can be illustrated of the point. Okay. Do you follow?
Yes. Some people who've said that the reptilians, or at least some reptilians, don't have souls, were using that as an explanation of why some factions, groups of reptilians do what appear to be such evil things.
It is an incomplete description or explanation. In the idea that they do not necessarily experience your concept of individuated soulness, then there may be a larger degree of, shall we say, activities that they would not necessarily experience the same, quote-unquote, moral parameters that humans experience because of the lack of differentiation in the idea of their relationship to the concept of soul. Does that make sense to you in your language?
Well, it does. Are you including within that activities like eating human babies, raping?
This they do not do.
They do not?
No.
No, there are no factions of reptilians?
These are projections of the fears of humanity.
All right. Do they rape, enslave and rape humans? Are there any factions?
There are certain relationships that they may have had with certain humans that to humans might seem like subjugation. in that sense, it is not exactly the same idea that humans have created on their planet that you would call slavery, and the idea of physiological rape is not a part of it. The idea also of the physiognomy is non-compatible for such an act.
How does that fit with the, pardon the pun, but how does that fit with the reports of human females having sex with reptilian aliens, physical?
It is the idea, again, of understanding the difference between an act that occurs on what you might call an astral plane that humans will interpret as happening in a physical realm.
So virtually all of the women who report these, what they thought were physical sexual encounters, or it's actually astral?
Yes, but do not understand it as being too different. For the idea of the lower astral realm has strong physical counterparts to it. We are simply making a differentiation that it is not exactly the physical realm that humans for thousands of years have considered to be their domain of existence.
Okay.
We are talking about levels of resonance here. Differences that may in some senses seem subtle, yet are also profound.
Okay.
This would require a more thorough charting of the idea of what these different resonance levels are all about in frequency to understand precisely what we are talking about. Mm-hmm. It is a type of interaction that has physical components, but it is not fundamentally physical reality as you typically understand it.
Okay. When you say frequency,
Yes.
You're talking about the vibrational rate of
Consciousness.
Yes.
Which creates a reality domain to reflect back to that consciousness the experience of itself and allow it to experience itself as if it inhabited that domain that it is creating.
But to me, frequency means an oscillation of something physical.
Why?
Well, because in physics, that's what frequency means.
All right. But the concept is still transportable to even what you might consider to be more highly rarefied forms of energy.
Okay, but in that case, then if it's not a physical object vibrating at a certain oscillation,
Yes.
then...
Do you consider light to be a physical object?
Not necessarily.
Does it then not vibrate? Does it not have a frequency? Or a variety of frequencies? Yes or no? Shall we begin again?
Yeah.
Do you consider light to be a physical object?
Not necessarily.
Does it vibrate? Does it oscillate? Does it have different frequency pitches? You know it does.
Well, it does in the sense that as a result of the physical object that is creating that light.
That is not the point.
No.
The point is that even though the light itself may be connected to certain physical parameters in its creation, so to speak, which is actually not true, but we'll go that way for now, still, yet unto itself, when the light effect is created, when light itself is measured even by your human instrumentation, it is seen to possess frequency.
Okay.
Yes?
So in terms, yeah.
Well, then,
okay, yeah.
It doesn't necessarily require that a physical object, being a solid object, is the only thing that can possess the quality you call frequency.
Okay, so...
Make sense?
It does.
All right. Then, does that help you extrapolate the idea of frequency to the non-physical realms, if you think of them more as energy domains that can still possess different frequencies? Does that help as an illustration?
Yeah, I guess so. And if I think in terms of wave oscillation.
I understand that many of you may have difficulty in understanding the idea because you ask the question, oscillation of what?
Right.
And you have to envision some actual medium.
Mm-hmm.
But consciousness is the ultimate medium. And consciousness, in its variety of oscillations, is what creates the things that you call light and physical objects.
Okay.
Do you follow? The idea of physical objects is one, just to speak hierarchically for a moment, one of the lowest levels of frequency domain, and almost everything else comes first, rather than the other way around. Rather than the physical objects creating light, it is light that gives birth to physical objects.
Okay.
Do you follow? Just to speak linearly.
Right.
But, again, as with everything else, it is actually a simultaneous co-creation or co-reflection or relationship of one aspect of the infinite to another aspect of itself. But we will not go into that esoteric direction for right now. All right?
Okay.
Does this serve you?
Well, one other question.
Quickly.
Do you do out-of-the-body astral projection?
Do you mean me personally?
Yes, I do.
Yes. But again, it is not literally out of the body, but we understand what you mean.
So you could come here in astral form?
Oh, I have many times.
Could you do it right now?
I am.
So your astral body, so to speak, is somewhere in this room, and all of us are...
Well, it is in a version of what you refer to as a room.
Okay. And could you, if you wished, could you slow down the vibrational rate of your astral body and materialize?
In time, yes. Not now. In time. This is part of the idea, anyway, of contact. Because remember that our species, anyway, exists at a higher frequency rate than yours does, and slowing our frequency down to some degree is a part of your ability to perceive us physically anyway. But we will need you to raise your frequency up to a certain degree to, in some senses, meet us halfway before it will be appropriate, and so that your system will not, in a sense, experience shock at being overwhelmed by too high a frequency. This is not a judgment, but simply a description of physical contact. Do you follow that?
I do. Thank you, Bashar.
For us, the idea also at this point in our evolution of astral existence and physical existence is almost the same thing, because we are evolving into something more non-physical. So in that sense, the idea of astral projection is almost our normal experience. Do you follow?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 2.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
How are you doing?
Perfect, and you.
Whoops. Bashar, this will be the last time I'll be able to speak with you for a period of time.
Oh, all right.
Our class physically begins next week. It's
All
already
right.
begun in Dream State.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you a few things. One is in my waking state, I keep encountering the tiger energy
Yes, and
for a
so?
long period. And so I've examined this, and I think perhaps it relates to the father energy. As a child, I had an enormous group of stuffed animals that I spent most of my emotional life with, and the father of the group was a huge tiger.
To some degree, that is a connection, but that is actually only a small part of the symbology of the tiger for you.
Could you?
In many ways, in fact, the tiger energy actually represents a stronger female component for you than a male one.
In what respect?
Think of it in terms of the maternal tiger. Begin exploring the symbology of the maternal tiger energy, and you will actually find that many more things symbolically will make sense to you energetically when you look at it from that frame of reference.
That's the cover photo on National Geographic this month, is the
Oh,
mother
right.
with the cub. But that is actually was my initial attachment to the cougar energy, was as a mother. I had no feeling relatedness to motherhood until I saw the
All
last.
right. Then this
finishing
is
movie.
helping and assisting in bringing some of that to the forefront so that it can be integrated and balanced.
Okay, from that I'll jump to my life with my extended family in Coto de Caza. My friend Joyce there, who is the nanny, had a dance and movement studio and gymnastics for children on Catalina Island for about 20 years. And we both need to raise some cash, so we've decided to write a book called Nannies in the 90s.
All right.
And
Does that mean that the book will only be good for a few more years?
hopefully, I believe that our communications with children and learning about child development is one of the most exciting frontiers.
All right. You don't have to hope. Obviously, it is. And for you
Did I use
specifically,
that word?
it is.
Oh, I missed that one. Okay. The other thing I wanted to mention was, I'm sorry Ellie isn't here tonight.
You are sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
because I wanted to share this. She and I created a Bose-Einstein condensate field for my horse.
All right.
I was at the feed store this week, and instead of going up to Thrifty Tack, I went to the gal that I really like, and I said, Lisa, do you have a blanket? And she only had 3 in the store, and like before her eyes, she swore that the blanket changed sizes because it was a 78, and it was exactly the blanket I wanted, and I'm really particular.
All right, what a surprise.
So we've got, Ellie made little silver bags, so I pin one inside the front, and then one hangs off of the back on top of his tail.
Very good.
And he's getting all kinds of energy ideas. He wants to go out, he wants to walk. We had a race all the way across the arena. I was laughing my head off because I had to shut the gate at the far end. So I feel very good about that. Also, I eliminated aluminum. I found it in the antacid I had been giving him. Gosh. Boy, I cannot believe that. And my 2 lady friends were very impressed that you could detect aluminum in that horse from Thousand Oaks, and I didn't tell them that
what
you were
has
actually
space and time
above,
got to do with it?
I didn't tell them you were actually above Cairo at the time.
Oh, all right. Nevertheless, aluminum, as you know, has a particular signature, and it was easy to detect and easy to suggest that you remove it for the health of the horse.
Okay, I need to use a buffer for the anti-inflammatory tablet because that's very irritating to the stomach.
No, right.
When I walk him on the street, he still is walking on broken glass. He's much better on the sand. I don't know if you can give me anything
Not
more.
at this time, no.
Oh, Bashar. Okay, all right. Then the other thing is about...
Continue what you're already doing. There will be still more unfoldment to this. Things will continue to improve. There is nothing more we are able to say at time on that subject.
It's improving, but boy, for a period, it was like quitting smoking all over again.
All right.
Gosh.
So be it.
Yeah.
Things will repeat in terms of their cycle.
Let me ask you this.
All right, I'll let you.
Vibrationally, I'm getting a reading of about 16 years from him at this point. Are you able to...
Are you projecting the ultimate age of the horse?
I'm just, no, not the actual physical age. I'm looking at his vitality level. Because people are always asking me, how old is this horse? And I say, nobody knows, and we're both so old we can't remember. So, all right, well, I don't want to take up time with that. He does seem to be getting a little younger again.
All right. It is more like unto the idea of 13 to 14 years.
Gosh.
But the idea is that if you experience yourself as a physical being, it is impossible to some degree for you to not take up time, so don't worry about it.
Okay. And, I don't want to say this is an ultimatum. I was told by the source that if this horse could not make it to Santa Fe, that another horse would be provided. But that idea really doesn't excite me. And as I say, I don't mean it as an ultimatum.
All right. This is another issue entirely that represents the splitting off of different paths and things that have yet to gel in the unfoldment. We will not go too far in this. Let that go for now. You do not have to fixate or focus on that idea right now.
Okay, good. And there is a horse waiting for me up in pasture in San Luis Obispo. So
all right.
When he decides to cross over, I won't be alone.
All right.
The other thing is we're expecting a baby in Kodo, and they're very elite, and they wanted a French name that nobody else uses. And so they're going to call her Antoinette.
No one else uses that?
I don't know anybody else named Antoinette. I know. So,
all right. Thank you for your humor.
Yeah. And then the last thing is about my disastrous lawsuit. I have...
Your suit that is disconnected from the stars. That is what disaster means.
Is that really?
Disconnected, disastra. Disconnected from the stars.
Yeah.
Do not label it that way, as was the meaning of our opening dialogue. In learning the habit of not automatically imposing negative terminology on circumstances.
It's just because within the context of what happened, I believe I made the correct decision.
All right.
Because I will not do anything that is fear-based motivated.
All right.
I was able to create a very good conversation with a woman in a law office who took down the particulars.
All right.
And her attorney is very interested in pursuing this on my behalf, which is unusual to find.
Or on your behold.
Or on my behold, or because of the amounts of money involved for different issues.
All right.
But I need to raise a retainer to pay him.
Do not put the cart before the horse.
What does that mean?
It means do not worry about the details. Look at it holistically, and therefore you will find that whatever is needed will come if you will continue to act on your excitement as it is presented to you. It will bring with it all the things you need for any other area of your life that certain things are required.
Well, I think I can create it. I think I can do that.
I know you can, but not if you become fixated on the details rather than allowing yourself to focus on the whole event.
I'm not fixating it, but what it's doing is helping to show me the path of
All
other
right.
options, like
Yes.
you mentioned.
All right.
And so that I may end up even just making more money than I'm making now
All right.
for
Thank
a living.
you.
So I'm very grateful. It was a very difficult week for me.
All right. Congratulations.
Yeah, but I'm very grateful. Anyway, somebody else can.
Thank you. You and then you. Number 1. Number 2, do you know who you are? Male. Number 3. Do you know who you are? Yes. All right.
Good evening, Bashar.
Yes, you did. Good day.
I wanted to ask you if you could help me with the situation with dealing with my father's health.
Which is?
I spoke with his doctor today, and she told me he has a tumor on his lung,
Yes.
the only lung that he has left, and it's pressing against his. It's attached to the outside of his lung, and she said that it's starting to grow.
All right.
And he whistles a lot because it's pressing against the lung, so
Yes.
it creates that funnel.
All right.
And I
And
wanted to know if there's something that I could do to help him or to help.
what is the strongest belief system that he has within himself regarding the idea of assistance? Is he willing to explore the idea of a variety of avenues, or is his belief system relatively narrow in this issue?
It's to begin with, I think that it's pretty narrow, but
But what?
I kind of sense that he could be helped in a
Have
way.
you discussed the idea
No.
of alternate methodologies with him? Yes, no?
I have not, but he has asked my sister for help. The one that he feels closer to my oldest sister.
All right.
And she told me that he had called her the other night and asking her if there's anything she could do.
All right.
So I discussed.
There are several things that can be, of course, explored. One of which may be, and this may not be the solution, but may lead you to understanding something, and will to some degree be representative of some of the belief systems he already feels comfortable with, yet may be a slight stretch, but not so much so that he will not be willing to explore it. And that is that even in some of your medical professionals, there are those willing to stretch the boundaries of what is accepted as treatment. One in particular, even though we rarely name names, in this case, because it is about the only one in this field, will be named, as has perhaps already come to the attention of many people on your planet, in your Houston area, the individual that is called Brzezinski. This is a medical doctor that is exploring the idea of the strengthening of certain natural substances, enzymes, that then when strengthened can simply be placed back into the body and allow the body to heal itself of the cancers in the natural way it was designed to do. You may explore that and see if there is some information there for you. At the same time, there may be a few other methodologies that may also have some benefit. But it will require, if you are going to be of assistance in this way, a more in-depth discussion and connection and relationship between you and him with regard to his willingness to allow himself to share this energy and this information and his feelings with you so that you can explore this concept together. Do you follow this?
Yeah, I understand.
All right. Does that help you?
Yes, but I also wanted to ask you, what do you think, or what information could you give me on hydrazine sulfate? I've heard
Sometimes that can be of assistance, but it will depend upon a variety of other circumstances that exist within the body's chemical conditions as to its effectiveness. You may explore it. You may explore it, but be cautious with regard to making sure that the chemical balance of the person is what it needs to be for that particular substance. Sometimes there can be side effects, and you must be cautious about that idea. But it is basically determined by the chemical balance of the being himself or herself.
Okay, that's what I was thinking about.
But you may look into it. It may also still lead you to something else, even if you do not actually use it. What is the individual's emotional state in general?
Well, he's has a pretty high level of anxiety.
And before the awareness of the existence of the tumor?
No, he's always had a high level of anxiety. But it's gotten worse. He doesn't sleep very well. He's scared.
All right.
So,
Is he willing to explore the origins of anxiety within himself as far back as he can remember it? That would be a very key and critical explanation and exploration. If he will get in touch with the anxiety in his being, this may also help create more receptivity in the body for anything physical that you may discover as an assistive format. Do you follow? But without the exploration of why the anxiety is there, anything that you may discover that would be of assistance might be only temporary. You must get to the core issue.
So you're suggesting to sit and talk with him and find out?
He must fully express the anxiety. Why do you think this is all centered around the idea of the lung? And why does he already have one missing? There is a lack of ability to express. Do you follow?
Yes, and it does describe him.
Therefore, this must be explored fundamentally. For if this is not done, anything may only be relatively temporary, no matter how natural and or beneficial it might be to others.
I understand. So that would help him the most to begin with.
Yes. Doesn't help you then.
Very much so, Bashar. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 2.
Good evening, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
My question centers around feeling very off balance and lack of energy and lack of direction over the past couple of months, and also problems with memory loss. And I'm wondering if you could suggest anything to help me refocus my efforts. And
has your diet changed at all in the last several months?
Slightly.
In what way?
I probably don't eat. I don't eat as well, and I don't eat as regularly.
The idea of regularly, does that mean amount of times, or does it mean amount of actual substance intake?
Amount of times in actual food.
All right.
A combination of
in
both.
actual fact, the ingestion of less food would actually give you more energy in general, as a generalization. So it is not the idea of the lack of food so much as it may be the idea of types or the idea of other issues going on in your life. Do you follow me so far?
Yes.
But in that your statement of dietary change has been made, in what way has it changed? What is your typical diet like at this time?
A lot of cereals.
Why?
Because it's fast, it's convenient.
So this is the idea that you are in a rush.
Yes.
You are in a hurry.
Yes.
Where are you going?
I don't know.
Why are you in a rush?
I don't know.
All right. Then if you don't know, are you willing to slow down?
I've been trying to.
Obviously that means no. Why is it difficult for you to slow down? What do you think will happen? What do you think you will miss if you slow down? If you take your time?
I think I'm running because I don't want to face certain things.
All right. What is it you don't want to face?
The fact that I'm not doing what I think I don't know what I should be doing, but I don't think I'm doing it.
All right.
And I'm having a hard time focusing my energy to
All right.
to go.
Generally
to
speaking,
go in
the
right
idea
direction.
of following your highest excitement at any given moment is what you quote-unquote should be doing. That is the most natural thing for you. Given moment as best as you can, the thing at that moment that contains the highest amount of excitement, creativity, love, and joy. Without condition, without judgment, without reservation.
Okay.
Therefore, you have obviously admitted that you're not doing that.
Yes, I'm not.
And why not?
I don't feel I have the energy or the discipline to get there. And
you are creating a vicious cycle. The idea is that if you did that, you would have the energy. That's the point. If you followed your joy, if you were willing to believe that the things that come to you that represent or contain the highest amount of excitement were representative of your true natural core self, you would find your true self having more energy to do the things that really need to be done. The things you may find yourself not having energy to do, maybe because those things don't need to be done in your life. At least not as many of them as you may think.
Okay.
So, when you find your true natural rhythm and your true natural self by acting on the circumstances and situations that contain the highest amount of excitement, you will also simultaneously find that certain things that are not representative of your truth will fall away and do not need to be done, because in that sense they would be, just to put it euphemistically, a waste of your energy. And that will tire you out. Doing what is not you is tiring. That's where your energy is going. You are spending your energy battling, resisting your natural self. That's why you're tired. Do you follow this?
Yes, I do.
So, all you really fundamentally need to do, and I do not necessarily mean to imply that it has to be this simplistic, but it is. But if you find that there are complex issues within you that need facing, that's all well and good too. Not discounting that. But fundamentally, all you really need to do is start day by day, as many times as you can, as best as you can, as often as you can. Start acting on the options available to you at any given moment that actually contain the highest amount of joy, without fear, without reservation that you're going to miss anything. Do not be afraid to face whatever comes up, because it's only you. Fear is nothing more than a messenger, really, fundamentally. I don't mean to discount your feelings when you have them, but fear is fundamentally nothing more than a resonance, a vibration, a pitch of your own energy. Pitched that way because it's being filtered through belief systems that are not in tune, not in alignment with your core true self. Do you follow that logic?
Yes.
So, if you're willing more and more every day to simply, for its own sake, act on the things that excite you the most at any given moment, you will find yourself having only time to do those things, having not as much time to do the things that are not you, and you will find your energy level shifting.
That's sort of where I get stuck, is the acting upon it.
Why do you get stuck there?
Because I know some of the things that I should be doing, but I don't do them.
All right. Now, you don't have to judge yourself when you use the word should, if you're doing that.
Yeah, I am judging myself.
All right. Again, this is why we say it has to be done in that sense in total faith, without reservation and without condition and without judgment upon the self. But if you have those conditions and you have those self-imposed judgments, you have to find out what they come from. They will always come from some definition about yourself you have been taught to believe as true that isn't empirically true, but you have been taught to believe that it is. So in getting in touch with what those definitions of yourself are, actually finding out what the definition is will automatically neutralize it, unless you want it to stay, unless you have a reason for it to stay, unless you are motivated to have it stay, it will automatically neutralize. If you're motivated to have it stay, then there's a reason for that. There's a definition for that too, and you can find that one out. But once, usually, you find out what the definition is, if you know that there is another definition you would prefer to replace it, then you can know that once you know what that definition is, the new one, once you create the new definition in your imagination, you can know that it will automatically replace the other one, because once you have found what the old one is, it is automatically neutralized. And once you create a new one, it automatically replaces the old one, unless, again, as we said, you have another definition that gives you a reason or a motivation for holding on to those old definitions because you think somehow they're serving you. And that will still only come from a definition that they are, and you can change that definition too. Is any of this making sense to you?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Is this helping you?
Yes, it is.
Does it make it feel a little bit lighter to think in this way?
Yes, it does.
Then that is your strongest clue and indication of what direction to continue in. Do you follow?
Yes.
Can you become excited about knowing? Can you become excited about knowing that it is a matter simply of reshuffling your definitions, and that's all that the lack of energy stems from?
That seems to be very straightforward. It's actually easier than I would have imagined.
Yes. Knowing that that is so, does that feel more exciting?
Yeah, it feels great.
Well, there's your energy. Do you see?
Yes.
That's all there is to it. Does that help you?
Yes, very much.
If you need practice at any future time with this, do not hesitate to discuss it with us. We will always be willing to help you form a new habit. But this is where it goes. This is the beginning. This is the route to take. So explore it, play with it, and realize that when you come up with a reason for why it cannot be so, even though you know you desire it, remember that your reason only stems from a definition that is not empirically true. It only seems to be true because definitions create reality and must seem solid in order for you to experience the reality that the definition creates. But it can be changed. You follow?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Number 3. And to you, good day.
Thank you very much. As you know, because I was speaking to Daryl earlier,
Yes.
I was telling him about a technology that a Russian scientist has been working on for quite some time.
This is not the only person on your planet to understand the infusion of resonance into the idea of water.
Right.
This is one of the most powerful things that many scientists on your planet are beginning to explore, especially from what you would call the homeopathic realms.
Exactly. Actually, this water is significantly more powerful than any homeopathics, though.
That is not true. It is only in your experience that this is so.
Okay.
But understand that the homeopathics we are referring to are homeopathic methods you may not yet be familiar with yourself. The idea of typical homeopathics, yes. The idea is that it may not necessarily resonate as high in all cases as what you're talking about. But what we are referring to is that the person you're talking about is not the only person to understand pure energetic imprinting. There is a field of homeopathics that deals with pure energetic imprinting. And that is different than the typical field of homeopathics you may be familiar with, and is more similar to the kind of imprinting you're talking about. Do you follow me?
Yeah, can you explain it more?
It is simply similar to what you're already talking about, in that there are the utilization of light waves or energy fields to imprint the resonance of a particular substance into the water rather than the utilization of the substance itself.
Yeah, but what about imprinting chi energy into the water? Chi energy itself.
What's the difference? It's still an energy field. It is still a particular resonance. There is no difference fundamentally in the idea. Do you follow? We are talking about the idea of imprintation of energy frequencies into water. It doesn't matter what the energy frequency is. Yes, some may be more powerful than others, may be higher frequency than others, but it's still the same idea. Do you follow?
Well, sure, it's all resonant frequency identification.
Yes. So that's all we are saying.
Okay. Before I ask you some more questions, I'm just curious as far as what your spin is on actually this individual and this particular technology, and if you're able to scan the channel's energy from the waters that I gave him before he started to channel you.
The particular dosage that you impart to the channel is within the framework of the typical window that the channel is used to experiencing when in contact with us.
So in other words, it didn't increase or decrease anything because it's basically at that vibrational frequency that you're coming to.
Yes, in other words, what you gave the channel is something that the channel is used to.
Okay, that's actually I kind of figured that anyways.
All right.
I didn't want to give him anything to whack him out too much in one direction or the other, actually.
Had you done so, we would have balanced it out anyway.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. Also, this individual, Yuri Kron, this Russian scientist, we gave him a Bashar tape, and he seemed to be fairly interested in it. In fact, I talked to him today, and he wanted me to ask you a few questions.
Yes, proceed.
And I know that usually you don't like people to ask questions for other people.
It is not an issue of like. It is simply an issue of whether it is appropriate. I have already suggested that you proceed.
Okay. Yuri believes that the location that they're in right now, because he developed this technology, but he also has...
This location being what?
Columbus, Ohio.
All right.
And that's where he lives, and his partner who also helped him in this, who's a Tai Chi master.
Yes, this is appropriate not only because of the vibration of the area at this time for what he is doing, but also, and again, remember this is just a linear way of saying it, as all things are simultaneous, but linearly, he has actually had, quote-unquote, many lives in that area. And this helps reinforce what he is doing now.
Okay, but they're feeling,
yes,
I'm sure intuitively from the waters as well as from what other people told them, that they need to move from this location.
Eventually, yes.
Okay, now they're...
But for now it supports what they're doing as a foundation.
Okay, good. Now
there may be other areas that may be more conducive to the higher energies they will ultimately be exploring, one of which would be the area you call Mount Rainier.
Where's Mount Rainier?
Washington.
Oh, okay. Thank you, because that was the next question. They want to know a place that would be a good central location